Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Marketing and Success Talk today. And I'm happy to be with you. And the topic of today, it's going to be really amazing. It's really explaining to you how you can use your inner and outer connections to be more successful in life and be more productive and stuff like that. So I'm your host. My name is Amel. I'm an SEO and web analytic consultant. So I help small businesses and with their website improve their performance, get more traffic, make more revenue. And I have with me Dagmar, my co-host, and we have our special guest, Jason. So I'm going to let Dagmar present herself, and then we can start our conversation with Jason. Go ahead, Dagmar.
Thank you so much for having me. And Jason, I'm so excited to learn more about that. I'm Dagmar Gattel, and I'm an SEO strategist, consultant, and coach. And how I help entrepreneurs and small businesses is really I turn their expertise into a global business so that they can become the go-to expert and the authority in their industry worldwide. So let's start. Let's go ahead and start with Jason, because I cannot wait to hear more about that.
Yeah. So with us, we have Jason. Jason, thank you very much for being with us. I really appreciate having you here with us. So thank you. And here is the story behind all this, our conversation today. I found Jason's website, and I went to his website, and I was looking to learn more about him. And I find his speaking section, and he had a video. And I listened to that 25-minute video, and I was like, oh my God, I need to have Jason on our call and on our show today, because he's so inspiring, and he can really help us a lot understand how this inner outer connection work and stuff like that. So Jason, please present yourself, tell us who you are, give us a little bit a background of everything about you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm flattered that you did go find my video and followed up and invited me on the show. So thank you so much for that. And Dagmar and Amel, I'm excited to get to know you guys today through this conversation. Well, my name is Jason Arneson. I'm from Golden, Colorado. And my story in a nutshell is that I work with young adults. I always have since I was years old. And have in many different capacities. That's one thing that's never left kind of my journey. And the big part of my journey that kind of defines me and what we're talking about today is when I was 24 years old, I was in a toboggan accident where I hit a tree head first on a toboggan, and it broke my back. So I'm paralyzed from the chest down, about where you can see blab is below that, I can't feel or move any part of my body. And so that was obviously a huge event in my life that kind of derailed the journey that I was on, and also opened up kind of new opportunities that I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade for anything. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I'm married to my wife, Laura. We've been married 20-some years and have two grown young men. I've got a sophomore in college and a senior in high school. And so we're about to be empty nesters and enjoy a different phase of life. And I have started Arneson Guides, which is, I was in the school system for 10 years as a teacher and a school counselor. And I left the school system in order to start Arneson Guides and really be that school counselor for the school of life, and really help young adults with those areas in life that they really don't teach in school. Those areas of work, of money, of life and love and play, just those subjects that are so important for success and happiness in life, but they really don't get taught very thoroughly or very well in our school system. And so my hope through Arneson Guides is to kind of bridge that gap and help young adults that are ready to own their journey get a little more support and accountability and guidance, and through my community of adults who are guides, have their own journeys, and are willing to kind of share back to the young adults their connections, their experiences, and their encouragement for sure. So I hope that
awesome
kind of gives a general nutshell of who I am.
And thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story with us. And we are here all in business. We are all entrepreneurs. We are marketers. We're consultant and coaches, mentors, and we all have like I like to say, like two part in our life. We have the professional area of our life and our personal life. All right, it's like two lives in a way.
And we're humans, right, Amel?
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know, that's how I see it, at least. And the thing is, when I was listening to you, Jason, I was really inspired, and I was amazed by all, like, how brave you are, and how what happened to you. It was, you struggled for a while. I mean, of course, it was like a big accident that you had, and I mean, tell us, like, how you went through that, and how it you came up with that connection, inspiration, like inners and outer connection, and how they influenced you, and how did you came up to that? Like, what do you mean exactly by inner outer connection, and how it helped you be successful the way you are today?
Yeah, well, the quick version is that before I was injured, I was very much an athlete. I was very involved in sports and recreation. And when I had those labels kind of ripped off me, in other words, I was a volleyball player, I was a golfer, I was a tennis player, I had my identity in all these activities that I was involved with as well as being a young husband and a young father. I felt like that all those roles in my life were kind of ripped away because I had lost connection with my body, physical connection. My brain no longer could tell my legs to run and kick and move or pedal a bike. And so I lost this key connection in my life. And really, I thought, okay, well, life is kind of over then, because everything that was valuable to me was lost by this broken connection. And so that put me in kind of a dark place for a number of years after the accident. Probably wasn't the friendliest person to be around, or the happiest person to be around, because I was kind of dealing with the loss of this part of my life. And what I found was that what I really still had, and what was really important, was the connection of my mind and my arms and the people around me, and that those connections actually were now even more important because I still could control them. And there was a whole bunch of connections that I had lost control of, and it wasn't coming back. So I kind of had to come to grips with that. And so it really got me thinking in the terms of the connections really matter. And I'll give you two extremes to illustrate this. And it's what I mentioned in the talk that you saw. Because my brain cannot tell the lower part of my body to move like it used to, like an able-bodied person can. That was paralysis. And paralysis is when you have all the thought but no action, no movement. Because I can think all day about moving my legs or running, and it just, nothing happens. And so it's out of my control. So paralysis on one side is the extreme, but on the other side is a lovely thing that I get to deal with, and that's involuntary muscle spasms. That's when my lower body decides to move without letting me know that it's going to, so my legs will kick, or, I'll have a spasm in my abdomen and it'll kind of throw me back or throw me forward. And, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it really catches me off guard. And so on two extremes, you have paralysis and then you have spasm, and spasm is all action with no thought. And so that's kind of the idea about connections, is that all of us live in between paralysis, which is all thought and no action, and spasm, which is all action with no thought. And so somewhere in the middle there is a coordinated movement because you're thinking and acting together. And that's kind of the nutshell of the talk I gave, and the idea around your interconnections, which, your mind, your certainly you're controlling your body, but it's really that mindset, that heart, the interconnections, and then your attitude. Then you have the outer connections, which are your relationships with people, the ideas that you have and put into action in life, and the experiences that you seek. So kind of those outer connections. So together you have to kind of have some alignment if you're going to move in a direction.
Wow. So I like that you're saying that your mindset in a way plays a big role in how you react to your reality. Like it seems like you decide to be happy, or you decide to be sad, or you decide to be miserable, or you decide to, like, it's enough and I'm going to do something about this. I may not be successful right now with my business, my life, but I can change it. I can, decide, like to unstuck my life and my business in a way. That's really amazing. And did you have that feeling of being stuck? Like, you know what I mean, Jason? And what did you do? Like, can you give us, for us, like entrepreneurs and business owners, and, we have our personal life, we have all these challenges. And when we feel we're stuck, what can we do, like, to really move on and do something about it?
Yes, absolutely. And as I mentioned, that those couple of years after the accident were a real transition, and it was really hard to adjust to a life where I was paralyzed. I could not move like I used to. I couldn't do the things that I used to do. And no matter how much I prayed, thought, or struggled, it wasn't happening. And at some point, I had to let go of what I could not control.
Okay.
Because there was so much energy wasted on being sad about it, being angry about it, trying really hard to make something happen. It was just a lot of wasted energy, and that makes you exhausted when you're wasting energy. And so that's part of what everyone feels when you feel stuck, is you kind of feel exhausted because you might have been focusing on all these things that are out of your control. Because if you're stuck in a relationship, if you're stuck in a job, if you're stuck in a skill set, it's because there's no movement, there's no progress, right? Tony Robbins says the happiness is progress. So if you're making progress toward your goals in life, then you're not going to feel stuck. You're going to feel like you're moving in a direction that you're choosing. And that's huge. That's the opposite of being stuck. And so my experience with being stuck physically, really, I still feel that to today, when I get mentally paralyzed and mentally stuck by thinking too much without any action. Because we can think and research and study and listen to podcasts and read books and listen to content in, and still be stuck because we're not taking any action. We're not taking that knowledge and actually doing something with it. And I think that feeling of being stuck is very similar to how I feel being paralyzed. There's a big part of my life that I can't move, I can't control. And so how to get unstuck is to take your focus and energy off everything you can't control and realize that you still have your mind and you still have your choice, like you said, your attitude, your words, your actions, and really start to focus in on that. Because when you change your focus from what you can't control to what you can, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just your arms, then that oftentimes can be enough to get you moving. And when you're moving, you don't feel stuck.
Okay, thanks, Jason. I see that we have some technical challenges on Blab. So the sound seems to be cutting. Yeah,
refresh.
Exactly. I think it's coming from Blab. I don't know why they're doing this. Dagmar, can you hear Jason well when he speaks, or because from my end I can't follow?
It's coming in and out when he speaks. So do you
all
have the
right.
chance to refresh it, Jason, the browser? That perhaps that helps.
Yeah, I can refresh real quick.
Yeah, and just while you do that, I just was thinking about something. In Germany, they say there are the three things, right? The wisdom is to know what you can change or what you can't change, and to recognize in what situation you're in. And I think that's what I love what Jason just said. It's not only that you know you can change it or you cannot change it, but to recognize and consciously make a choice to move on.
Yeah, that's true. This is really a great actually saying that, because and this is why I wanted to bring Jason, because we're all doing, our things. We're all, entrepreneurs, business owners, consultant. We're building our professional life. Okay. But we also have our personal life, and sometimes it's challenging to take care of both. And when I heard Jason talk, I was really, really amazed, because he's completely paralyzed, but he struggled for a while. But after that, he really understood the importance of connections, and he rebuilt himself in
Absolutely.
a way. And it's a good lesson for everybody. We all get stuck. I think I locked the
I just wanted to tell you that.
Sorry, you should tell me that.
Oh,
sorry.
I'm not fast enough to interrupt. I'm working on that.
Dagmar, I wasn't looking at the seat. I was sorry about that.
Oh my God. Just was waiting for a breathing break.
Hey, Dagmar, feel free to cut me when you have to. When it's super urgent. Sorry about that. It's nice to have you back, Jason.
Yeah, no problem. I knew that.
Oh my God! I was the seat was locked, and it was locked, and I didn't really notice. Anyway, so sorry about that. Yes. So what were we saying? It's good. We were talking about how your mindset can
I still hear
influence.
the sound is kind of messed up from what I'm hearing from you guys. It's very jarbly, so I don't know if. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you okay. So now it's from your end. Okay. Can you hear me okay, everybody? Yeah, just put the number one in the chats if you hear us okay. All right, cool. So it seems to be okay. So thank you, guys. So I was saying that it seems like when you're telling us your story and you're talking about connections, mindset is super important. It's in a way you can influence your thoughts.
You can program
what I mean? So yeah, Dagmar, that's a good thing. Like we're all in computers and technology. It seems like we're able to. I don't know how to say it. I'm trying to find the right way, but kind of game our mind. So to make it think something, or even if we may not feel it at that moment. I don't know if I'm right or not, and tell me if I'm wrong, Jason. But I'm trying to understand how can we, how it's important for us to combine our thoughts and actions together so they can work in harmony. And if we don't do it, what can happen to us?
Yeah. Well, I think if you think of me, when you think about connections, sitting in a wheelchair, if I only pushed my chair with one of my arms, say my right arm, then I would continually end up just pushing in circles. And so if I just think, I don't go anywhere. And if I use my other arm, just action, then I'm still kind of moving around, but I'm not getting anywhere, not getting to where I want to go. And so you can kind of think of it as, to push a wheelchair, you need coordinated thought and action. You need enough thought to get pointed in the direction and enough action to get moving in that direction, and then constantly course correcting as you go. So it really takes that coordinated effort of thought and action to move in a direction or intention. And the thought comes in selecting your goals and thinking about you know, aligning your direction with your values, your strengths, your desires, that's where the thought comes in. And if we just act without any thought, then we're probably just going to drift somewhere that we didn't really intend to end up. And so that thought is important. It is an important part of that. But that action is huge, because that's what gets you moving. That's what keeps you moving. And I get stuck in the thought trap a lot. I get mentally paralyzed a lot. Paralysis by analysis is a common way to say it. And so I have to constantly remind myself that, you know what, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be right, but it needs to get done, or you need to make some movement. And oftentimes that action will then cause some new thoughts. And then those new thoughts can cause some new actions. And that's when you begin to get in a rhythm of really kind of moving in a direction that you're excited about. And when you get some momentum going, that only fuels the process. And then you definitely don't feel stuck, because you're headed in a direction of what you want, and you're actually taking steps toward it. And that is that ideal place of happiness that Tony Robbins would call progress. So that's where the thought and action really need to come together. You can't have just one or the other.
Can I ask you a question, Jason? So I just saw that
Absolutely.
Paulo wrote, and I experienced that too, and I know many people experience that. We study endless, and we go to all the training, and we think we need more and more and more to be perfect and to answer all the questions. And then you always have the feeling you're never done. You're never done. You cannot take the first step for the action because you're not good enough, right? And then you start questioning yourself, how valuable am I? What can I really bring to the table? Did you experience that on your journey, and how did you deal with that?
You cut out a little bit there, so I'll try to fill in the gaps. But I think you mentioned about value, and maybe you could read your question real quick, because I think I missed a crucial part.
Jason, Jason, can you hear me well?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So Dagmar was saying that we had a question from actually a feedback from Paulo here in the chat, and he's saying that he studies a lot. So that's what she was referring about, the fact that, yeah, we're entrepreneur. We want to get like too much information sometimes. So that's the thing. So Dagmar, can you repeat your question if it's possible?
Sure. Yes, sure. Can you hear me better now, Jason?
Yeah, it comes in and out. So I'm sorry, it just kind of hit it.
I will refresh in a second. My question is, when you come in the circle and you think, I'm not valuable enough, I need to study more, I need to know more before I can take the first action step, how do you stop yourself? What do you use as tools to feel valuable enough, to feel good enough?
Sorry, you cut out again, but so you're saying how is it when you have all these thoughts, but you don't know if it's good enough to start moving forward or to start taking action? Is that kind of what you're asking? I think, and it's a great question, because I think, and I'm learning this kind of hard way right now. Oftentimes when we get lost in the thought aspects, when we get so buried in the plan of what to do next, we don't have clarity. And I think sometimes the confusing part is that we keep seeking clarity by thinking more. And what I'm learning the hard way is that, and from other people that are obviously much smarter than me, and that I'm trying to listen to them while I'm thinking and while I'm studying, but they really say that action sometimes just needs to come first, and that it may not be the right move, it may not be the right action, but the very fact of taking action is what can bring you clarity. It's like riding a bicycle. You can't ride a bike without pedaling. So you have to take that pedal, and it may be wobbly and misdirected at first, but then once you find your balance, you can steer that bike so much easier while you're moving. And so I think oftentimes when we're drowning or stuck in that thought phase and we're just not settled on what next step to take, I think that's, as soon as you feel that way, you got to say, you know what, the important thing right now is that I take a step. And it can be completely wrong. It can be in the wrong direction. It can be the wrong step, but I have to take a step. I have to push myself to get moving, because I know that that action is actually going to bring me the clarity that I need by getting me moving. And when I'm moving, then I can actually steer and adapt to what's kind of coming at me now a lot easier. I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure.
It did. Thank you.
And I hope my audio was okay.
Yes, it does. I mean, it's amazing. It seems like we need to keep moving and taking actions no matter what. Like, even if we are having interferences, like now we're having difficulties with technology and stuff, but we have to keep moving. We have to keep going with the conversation, which is sometimes it's challenging because there's a lot of interferences going on. So what do we do with that, Jason? Like, do you have like a tip, or from your experience, because you have like a wonderful story, and if you can share your wisdom with us, and help us in a way, so that would be wonderful. Like, how can we get rid of the interferences so that we can keep moving, forward?
Yeah. Well, I've got a couple things that have helped me, and they may be helpful, but I think the bigger lesson is you got to keep trying until you find those things that work for you. And these are just a few things that have worked for me that kind of help me. Number one is writing. And that is, I have a journal that I basically just keep with me 24/7, so that anytime I have a thought or an idea, I can capture it. And then that helps me not to have a lot of the same thoughts over and over, although I still do, but it helps me to clarify and capture some of those ideas so I can actually see them and work with them in a different way than just getting stuck in my head. And that helps me to move forward often, is just some form of writing. And they say, and again, this is, and please hear this from someone who is still struggling through all of this and learning new things every day, and realizing that it'll be a never-ending journey to figure some of this stuff out. But goals that aren't written down really don't have much power. And I've had so many goals that have never left my head and never gotten clearly written down. And I think that is one of the big things that can really help you get moving forward. Another thing is perspective, and I'll give you a quick story to try to illustrate this. I like to push for long distances, and I did a 5K here in Denver that went from 3 of our major stadiums, so where the Broncos play, the Rockies, the Avalanche. So these 3 stadiums were part of the 5K. And from the start, you could see them, and they looked really far away. And when I sat there and saw all that distance that I had to push, I kind of felt like, oh man, I don't want to do this, or that's going to be too far. But when I put my head down and looked right in front of me, I saw cracks in the road. I saw street signs that were just up ahead. And that's what I focused on as I pushed through this race, because I could do that. I could push that step. I could push that to that sign. I could push to that next crossing, whatever it was, because it was right in front of me. And I never looked up at the distance while I was pushing this 5K, and it was over like that. It was like, wow, I just pushed all that way. And if that's where I would have kept my focus, I probably wouldn't have, gone as fast or as far. So I think that's another tip, is that when you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling stuck, you have to really narrow your focus so it's just right in front of you. Because make it stupid simple, something you can do today. It can be the tiniest action, but once you start moving and you do little action after little action after little action, it turns into momentum, and it gets you moving again. And so perspective is another big thing that helps me. Another thing that helps kind of when you're feeling overwhelmed and stuck is to, one, like I said, focus on what you can control. And part of what you can control is making sure that you have some other things in your life that fill you up. For me, that's wheelchair tennis. And that was a big thing that brought me out of my depression early on. It helped me feel like an athlete again. It helped me have some sports buddies again. It helped me compete, get those competitive juices flowing. And to me, that fills me with energy. So if I go play tennis for an afternoon, I actually back more energized with more energy that I can then put into my work. So whatever it is in your life that kind of fills you up, something you're really excited about doing, and something that just kind of charges you up, then I think you need to, intentionally make sure that you have those things in your life. Even if you're feeling stuck elsewhere, you have that thing that okay, at least I can go play tennis, I can get some energy, I can get some exercise, some fresh air, and I know that that's going to clear my mind to come back.
Right.
The other thing I would say is I like to study neuroscience and neuropsychology a lot, and being in education, that was a big part of what I was looking at too. And I think what's fascinating is brains actually do their best work when we're distracted with something else. That's why we get great thoughts in the shower, because it's just a time to just be. And your brain is kind of free to do its work and to process and to think. And I think when you go for a walk, or when you have that meditation time or reflection time, and I think I even read your brain works hard when you're sleeping. So it's like those times that seem like downtime, or like a time when we're not focused on the problem at hand, oftentimes are when our brains do the best work and actually kind of work to come up with a solution. I'm sure many of your viewers have heard of Think and Grow Rich, and have maybe even read that. And it talks about that kind of subliminal infinite intelligence of, our minds really know a lot more than we even know. Like there's a connection there, both to people and ideas and experiences, that if we just give our brain that room to work, that rest, sleep is so important, that reflection time, times when we're just get lost in the flow of something else, so that our brain can kind of process in the background, phenomenal things come out of that. And I think that's where a lot of that thought into action, it's kind of like those aha moments, a lot of times come from those moments of rest and reflection.
Yeah. You know what, Jason, can you hear me well?
Yeah.
What it is too, we need to allow ourselves to take a break, because that was my challenge as I started. I felt whenever I'm not working, I'm a failure. So I had a hard time to take a break and do something what I enjoy emotionally and spiritually, to have the faith when I come back to work, I will do a better work. And it took me a while to get to this point, to allow myself to do that. So now I'm much happier, but I think it has a lot to do with faith and trust everything will work out.
And also, like Jason said, let go of things that you don't control. Like if you're working too hard, you need to take time to reflect and get more energy back, or it's going to be more difficult for you to be productive, to be efficient, to do better work and do more. So it's just accepting the fact that, hey, we need some time to take a break and let go of things that you can't control. Like that's the best way, I think. I mean, Jason, do you want to add something to that, like from your experience?
And there's a real hustle culture right now in the entrepreneurial world. Gary Vaynerchuk, of course, being the chief evangelist of the hustle and the grind. And there's an aspect of that turns some people off because they feel like they can't keep up. They can't grind 24/7. They can't work all the time. And then I think there's the other hand is make play part of your, Dagmar, you mentioned, when you're not working, you're feeling like, oh, I'm a failure because I should be working.
Yeah.
But if you think in your mind, playing and resting is actually part of my work, it is working because my brain never stops working. And those times when I take a break, when I go out and go for a push or get some fresh air, I know that my brain is doing more work and seeing all the thoughts and things that I'm thinking about. So that's part of the hustle. And so you can cut yourself a little bit of slack that way by not feeling like, oh, I'm not working, but no, I am working. I'm working by going for a walk. I'm working by taking a few minutes to meditate.
Jason,
I am working by.
Yeah, totally.
Go ahead.
I saw a video from Gary Vee, what he did lately, and he spoke about that in the last few months, he started to learn to say no, because what you're saying, first he said yes to everything because he believed there are always opportunities and always the right person there he can serve to. But he came to the point he was burning out. And I think Brian Kramer, who came to Amel and our club, he spoke about the same, that now more and more entrepreneurs who are in the business for so many years, they come to the point they're burned out. So if they don't stop now and learn to say no and make conscious decisions, and Gary Vee said clearly his most important focus in life is his family and his close friends. And that's really what's the most important to him. Then it's his business. But he had to learn this. And I'm learning that for myself. Like, I have my family, I have my cats, I love about everything. And I love to serve the entrepreneurs who are connected with me. But I cannot say yes to everything, because then I'm running every minute and doing something, and I will never stop. So what you're saying really clearly makes me aware of, it needs to have a balance emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally to be successful, right?
Yeah. And I think the word balance, people take that a lot of different ways too. And that some people feel balance is kind of always the same amounts or always kind of in proportion. And I think that life doesn't work that way. There are times when we are crunch time for work, we got to get something done, and we go deep. And there's times that are lighter, and we can go deeper into play or rest. And I think that balance is actually just a constantly fluctuating kind of situation, as opposed to a static kind of balance that's always the same. And I think that helps me too to know that there's going to be times of flex in there that will even out in the end. So it's it pays off to have those times of work, and it pays off to have those times of rest. But the balance is a tricky thing depending on how you look at it. I kind of see balance as just a constantly fluctuating trying to attain equilibrium, but it's much more fluid than just getting to this point of balance that just then is balance from there on out. I think that has been a bit elusive for me.
Yeah, it seems like when entrepreneurs and even if you're an employee working full time, it doesn't matter actually. If you don't stop and listen to your body, because your body, when you push it, your body start talking to you in a way. So when you're super tired, you don't have energy, you can't focus, you can't concentrate. These are little signs from your body trying to speak at you and scream at you. Hey, you need to go slow a little bit. Take a minute, breathe, relax, have fun. And if we don't learn to see these signs, we can actually burn out and get, sick and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the worst case don't want to be in business anymore, because I see that happens to people too. They just cannot handle this imbalance anymore, and they don't have your tools, Jason, what you teach, like don't overthink and think and think and think and never take action. Then you're so burned out from thinking and perhaps so frustrated or desperate or struggling all the time that you just don't want to do it anymore, and you don't realize you need to take action to release this pressure of thinking in like a circle.
But that takes us to the next point, Jason. It's how can we harmonize between our outer, connections and inner connection? If one is pulling out, like it's pushing out in one direction and the other is in another direction, how can we figure that out, and how can we find a way to harmonize like them and be happy in a way?
Yeah. Well, I think to use the Tony Robbins definition of happiness, which I really have latched onto, it's progress. It's moving in the direction that you want to move in. I think that is the essence of happiness, because in that moment you feel fulfilled because you feel like you're actually moving in a direction that your thoughts are telling you want to move in. And so I think when you're either moving but not in the direction that you want, or you're stuck and not moving at all, I think harmonizing your inner and outer connections really comes down to your mindset, your attitude. That's the inner connection, because that's what you have control of, is your thoughts. You can, whether it's through meditation, journaling, all kinds of different tools that you can use to kind of focus those thoughts and to really get some clarity around those thoughts. But the outer connections then really come through people, ideas, and experiences. So if you're kind of getting in alignment in your inner connections, so your mind and your attitude and your desires, that those are in alignment, then you're going to start to make outer connections, which is you're going to start talking to people. You're going to start meeting people that are also on that path. You're going to be talking about ideas that matter to you and that are, again, ahead of you on the path. You're going to seek out experiences that will help move you in that direction. So I think when it comes to how to utilize your inner and outer connections, it really comes down to getting them in alignment with one another, so that what's inside, what your inner connections are wanting, where they're wanting to go, and your outer connections of your actions and the people. Jim Rohn says you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's a huge sign for your outer connections. Sure. As to, am I surrounded with the people, or am I in close proximity and communication with the people that are going to help me move? Because oftentimes when we feel stuck or down and we look about the people that are in our lives at that moment, oftentimes we don't have those people that are going to challenge us to grow or challenge us to move out of that comfort zone or that confusion zone. And that's an outer connection that we need. Excuse me. So even if we get kind of in alignment with the inner connections, so our mindset is strong, our attitude is in the right place, that still has to then connect to those outer connections. It still has to come out as action and words and relationships and conversations, and that outer connection then has to be there too. And then when those two line up, now you're moving, because you kind of have both going in the same direction.
Jason,
I think we all had.
I just have a question. So it totally makes sense to me, and I'm pretty sure Madeline and I, we heard that so many times. The 5 people you surround yourself with are an indicator where you want to go, right? So I have 2 questions. So first, do I need to have a specific mission or a specific vision to find these 5 people? Because if not, what I see a lot, you have these people, but they put they create you. You allow them to create you. So if you have 5 people and they are miserable or they're complaining a lot, now suddenly you start to complain, right? So do you need to have a vision or a mission where you want to go? And then how do you find then the people? Do you feel they fit to you? Do you ask them questions? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I think that's a big question because there's so many ways to seek out connections these days. I mean, look, we have never met in person, yet we're here having a conversation with, 15 or so people joining in. And so there's so many ways to surround yourself or make new connections. But to answer your question about, do we need a mission? Do we need a real strong driving goal? And I think the answer is yes, but it doesn't have to be so big that it causes you to procrastinate in seeking it. And here's what I mean by that. I believe that our human minds actually have a pretty strong horizon of about 90 days. You may have heard of the 90-day year or coaches that plan in 90-day increments. Yes. And there's an old story about the French army or something crossing this endless desert, and they set oil barrels every like 2 to 3 miles, which is actually, when you're on a flat part of the earth, that's actually kind of the horizon line. It's only a couple miles away. And so that instead of getting lost in this endless desert, they always had 2 oil barrels in sight behind them and 1 in front of them as they made their way across. And so I think when we don't often have to have these lifelong missions or missions for our life for the rest of our lives, oftentimes it can be, what do I want to do in the next 90 days? 3 months from now, how would I like my life to be different? And it can be that simple. And if it's, I want to get more exercise, then you might be walking out in the park more. You might be riding bikes. And what you're going to find there is you're going to meet other people that are walking. You're going to meet other people that are riding bikes. You're going to meet other people playing tennis. And so when you take action in that direction, I think what you find is, and you talk about it, I think that's a very important part of it. If you have an idea, a mission, a vision, you need to talk about it to everybody, any chance you get, because you never know what kind of connections are going to come from that. But I think as you're moving along a path, you're going to naturally meet other people that are on that. And ideally, a few people that are a little further ahead on the path than you are. And those are the connections you want to make. And so, although
It makes sense what you're saying.
I'm sorry?
It makes sense what you're saying. So you really have to make conscious, you have a conscious action to do that.
Yeah, and I think if you're not to that point where you can take action or where you feel comfortable taking action, what you might do though is think about, well, who is taking action? Who are the people that I know already that are making some progress in this direction? And then maybe my first step is actually call them or send them a message, maybe go out for coffee and start to talk to them. And maybe that will help me to start to take action. Maybe that's the accountability partner I need, or maybe that's someone who can invite me to the next social network event. Or so, I mean, it can be you taking action and finding people also taking that action, or you just thinking about people who are going the direction you want to go or taking that action you want to take, and then intentionally getting in touch with them to say, hey, I need some help. I want to do what you're doing, or I want to move in the direction you're moving. Yeah, sorry. So see you guys.
Yeah. So at the end,
I don't know if you can still hear.
So at the end, it's what you said before, that don't overthink, take action.
Jason, can you still hear us?
You guys kind of cut out. I couldn't
All right.
hear.
So, do you want to? Okay. So I'm gonna refresh and come back and see. Maybe it's me from my end. I doubt it, but I'm gonna just try to refresh and then come back in a few seconds.
Okay. I'll refresh as well.
Okay, then. I'm holding the force here while you two are refreshing. So for our audience, what's your experience with that? Like, how do you pick your 5 most important people in your personal life or in your business life? Do you have a strategy how to do that, or how do you go ahead with that? And are you there already where you have the 5 most awesome people, or are you still looking for that?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me well? Now it's all right. That's why. See,
Bend down to
all right.
hatches.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, Dagmar, the sound is okay. It's not cutting.
No,
That's cool.
I
Okay,
could
sorry
hear you
guys.
clearly.
That's cool. Sorry guys, I don't know what happened. The support came and they said it's maybe a poor connections from. It's funny, we're talking about connections, and
Yeah, I know.
and when she said it's the internet connection, I was anyway. Yeah, so it seems like we had some issues with Blab, and it seemed like maybe it was from our guest, part. The connection, the internet connection he has, maybe is not good enough. But hopefully it's gonna be resolved now that we refreshed, like all of us refreshed the screen. So let's see. All right, Jason, can you hear us?
I can. Yeah.
No, it seems like it's better. And so just to summarize what you were talking about, it seems like for me it's as entrepreneurs and as people trying to build businesses, or even people who are trying to better ourselves, be the best version of ourselves, and do more, give back. We need to take care of ourselves first. So we need to kind of look at inside and see, am I in harmony with myself? Am I in harmony with my inner connections? And once we figure that out, so that's step 1, figure out yourself. You start with yourself internally. Then when you figure out that, okay, I think that's what's going to make me happy. So I'm going to focus on what makes me happy, what I like to do, what I'm passionate about. I stop complaining. I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to look at the bright side of things, and then once we do that and we're like happy with ourselves, now it's the outer connections. And that's the tricky part, because outer connection means it's other people's. And so we need to do like an X-ray and look at, okay, who is in my outer connections? Who is, you know what I mean? Who's gonna cut it, or who's gonna stay in my connections? And we need to do like a cleanup and see, okay, maybe this person is too negative for me. Maybe they complain too much. They see, you know what I mean? It's not really helping me outgrow internally and personally and be happy. So maybe I'm gonna nicely figure out a way to focus more on other people in my connections that are here to support me, here to help me out, go further in life, go further in business. People who, they really value me as a human being, and they value my values and all this. So, and then, go start finding these other people who may not be in your network, but who feel the same way as you, who are in the same level as you in life. They're looking for that, that harmony, that inner outer harmony, in a way. Did I summarize it correctly? I hope.
Yeah,
so.
I think when it comes to other people, it's the same thing as the interconnections. You have to focus on what you can control. And oftentimes you can control picking up the phone or sending an email or reaching out, but you can't control the response. And so you have to let go of that aspect of it. And I think also understanding that there's going to be a moment when you all of a sudden have every outer connection that you need forever. It's going to be a constantly fluctuating scenario too, because people come in and out of our lives. People move on to different projects or different, it's like people are always coming in and out of our lives. And so it's going to be slow growth. It's going to be more of a marathon, if you will, of reaching out and connecting with people. It kind of has to become a habit. And once that happens, I think you see a lot more return on your investment of energy into those relationships, because it's more of a constant aspect of your life. It's not just a spasm of action to be like, oh, I need people, and then you meet a few people, but then you don't nurture those relationships, or you don't, take that long view of, how can I serve these people? How can I give back? How can I contribute? Because it's not what we can get from people. It's oftentimes more about what we can give. And so it's kind of creating this perpetual motion machine through daily habits and through just practice, that we continually are reaching out to people and talking about what it is that we accomplish, or what skills and value we have to offer other people. A lot of it happens through conversation. And so, that's why I love Blab. When it works well, it's a great conversation platform. It's a great way to have conversations with a lot of different people, and that can then attract and, connect you with people that can either help you move ahead, or you can help them move ahead. And I think either of those scenarios are definitely worth it, but it has to become kind of part of your life. It's like gardening or, training for a marathon. It's kind of an everyday kind of thing for a long time.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I think what is it too, Jason, what you said, and I think what we can learn tonight, let go of expectations, right? Let go of the expectation. Blab will work perfectly so that we have a perfect show, because we have a perfect show without a perfect audio, just because we created. And like what you said with the outer connection, don't have expectations or assume or take things personal. Just reach out and see what you receive as a gift, and not judge it immediately. That's at least what I'm hearing, what I know I'm focusing on in my life, because it makes my life much happier and much lighter not to have these expectations behind that.
That's true.
Yeah. I think it's a comforting thought that most of what you try isn't going to work. And that's just the fact. And when you are okay with that, when you say, you know what, yeah, most of what I try isn't going to work, but it's the very fact that I keep trying and practicing and persisting that's actually going to pay off in the end. It's actually going to build my skills in the end. It's actually going to help me meet the people I need to meet in the end, is just by continuing to try and to put myself out there and to keep moving forward. I think that it's not like we're ever going to get to a point where everything we do just starts working, everything. That's never going to happen. But it's the realization that regardless of that, it's okay to keep trying. It's okay to keep practicing. And the world moves on.
Yeah.
And we continue to grow through that practice. And that's the thing I think a lot of people get either paralyzed because, I could never do that. There's no way it'll ever work for me. Or we get in these spasms of, okay, I'm going to blast Twitter and I'm going to, reach out to 500 people today.
That's true.
And then it's these actions that can't be sustained on a daily basis. And then we kind of give up. So it has to be kind of this slow growth of daily habits of practice, every day practicing and trying something else, or trying something different, or trying something, that worked last time, and just continuing that process, knowing that most of it won't work, but that's okay. There's still a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Interesting. Also, it seems like when you talk about this, it seems like you have to be patient with yourself, because if you want if you want it to happen super fast, it's not. It's a process, and the process takes time. and you go slowly, like one step at a time, and you know, and that's how it's gonna work out. But if you want something super fast and you're not patient with yourself, then that's where the frictions between the inner and the outer connection happens, and then you're stuck. You can like, oh, what can I do now? You know, it's patience with ourselves is super important. One question I have for you, Jason, too, it's how, okay, now that we understand the difference between inner and outer connections, so describe for me like a super easy process that I can, I and everybody who's listening to us can follow to focus our inner and outer connections together so that they move together like in one direction and not in the opposite.
Yeah, I think I love words that start with C. My two sons are named C's, and it seems like whenever I try to simplify or come up with something to make something a little easier to remember, it often ends up as C words. So no different here. I think in this process of your connections, what I said in that speech was that you have to check your connections, and that's an intentional time out. Let me take stock of where I'm at, internally and externally. What are my connections right now? What are the people, ideas, and experiences that my mind is focused on? Where am I? Do I have some connections in my life that are things that I can't control? And I need to cut those out. I need to refocus that energy somewhere else. So that check is just that intentional time out to check your connections. And that's step number one. Step number two is to choose, because you're going to see some connections that maybe you're not so excited about, whether that's a relationship or a job or a certain situation in your life that you're like, that isn't something that I want to stay connected to. It may be letting go of something that's out of your control. So when you check your connections and you choose which ones you really want to put some energy into, that's the third step, is to charge those connections. So you've checked them, you've chosen the ones that you want, that are important to you in your life. Now you charge them. And all that means is you're going to put a little more thought and a little more action into those connections. So if it's a relationship, maybe spending more time. If it's a task or an activity, maybe it's getting a little more training, practicing a little bit more, but there's some intentionality of extra focus, extra energy, extra charge into those connections. And life is such that different things are going to take that charging spot at different times. It's like having one outlet and having 4 devices to charge. You know, those could be 4 main areas of your life, but you can only charge one of them at a time. And so you may have to redirect where you're putting that time and energy and action into. But, you know, like I said, if it becomes a practice, if it becomes part of your routine, then it fuels those connections enough in a way. And the very last step then is to look for the challenge. So you've checked your connections, you've chosen the ones that you want to charge, and now you're saying, okay, how can I grow? What's my challenge here? How can I just push my life a little bit forward in this direction? Because as you know, growth, and I think someone mentioned it in the comments, people don't like growth. People don't like to change because it's hard. But yet that is the very process that we're seeking, is progress, is growth. And so that's going to require us to challenge ourselves. And we got to take that on personally. We got to own that. We can't just let serendipity, choose what our challenge is going to be. So that's the 4-step process to kind of using your connections, aligning your connections, is to check them, to choose them, to charge them, and then to challenge, seek that challenge that's going to move you forward out of your comfort zone and a little further down the path that you're in alignment with in your life.
Awesome. Great formula, Jason.
I hope that made sense and answered your question.
It does. It's wonderful. I was actually trying to take as much notes as possible, but I tried to summarize them in a way that it's easy to grasp and for us to use. Hopefully, I was okay with that. So to summarize them, like you said, check your connection, choose them, charge them, and then challenge them. So in a way, you challenge the status quo. You don't want to stay in stuck. You need to move forward. You need to take action. Never stop taking action. And we know it's hard. It's difficult. It's sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes we have better days. But let's take them like one step at a time or one day at a time, maybe, to make it easy on us. So do you have any other questions, Dagmar, so we can wrap up?
No, Jason answered all my questions. I think it was amazing content he provided.
So thank you, Jason, for coming today. Thank you for sharing your story, sharing your experience, sharing your tips and knowledge. It's really, really helpful. And hopefully it's going to help our listeners, our viewers. And please, everybody, follow Jason. So Jason, where can our viewers find you online? Can you give us your website, please?
Yeah. arnesandguides.com is my website, and Arnes and Guides is thankfully a name that no one else uses. So I'm pretty active on Snapchat, a little bit on Twitter, off and on Instagram and on Facebook. So search Arnes and Guides on any of those platforms, and you'll find my homes there. My email is just jason@arnesandguides.com, and I'm happy to answer any further questions or connect with anybody. I do have a LinkedIn profile. It's not the most up-to-date. Like most people, I'm not on LinkedIn as much as I probably should be. But those are ways to connect with me, and I certainly welcome any connection. I know the audio was a little tricky today, and that can be hard to make connections sometimes in that scenario. But if you heard anything you liked and want to find out more, my main goal is to work with young adults. So my target audience is kind of that 16 to 24-year-old who's kind of seeking their path of purpose in life. But on the other side of that, I'm also cultivating a community of guides, people that are 25 or older that are kind of value their own journey and realize that they have connected the dots kind of looking back. Like Steve Jobs says, you can only connect the dots looking back. You can't connect them looking forward, but you have to trust that they will connect. And so I'm also building a community of guides who can act as resources, as connections to share their journey and experiences. So if either side of that sounds appealing to you, whether you're a 16 to 24-year-old or know someone who is, certainly send them to arnesandguides.com. But also if you're an adult who is youth-friendly and willing to kind of give back of your experience to connect with young adults, then I would welcome you to join our community as well. Now, Blab is a platform I will be using pretty heavily here. I have 3 shows that I'm going to be doing on a regular basis. The first one is called Journeys, which is a one-on-one interview with an interesting person doing interesting things. It's kind of sharing, much like you've allowed me to do here, just hearing someone's journey, their story, what dots in their life and why. And I think that is very instructive for young adults to hear a lot of different people's journeys. And then I'm going to do a show called Connections, which will be a 4-panel kind of conversation show with a guide and 2 explorers, 2 young adults around topics that are interesting, whether talking about a college, a career path, stuff going on in the world. And then my last show will be more of a community-based called Fire Circle, which is really just for kind of the members of Arnes and Guides to kind of catch up on what's going on in the community. And that'll be weekly on Monday nights. So people can follow me here on blab.im/artisan guides, and they'll see both the replays of those shows and the upcoming ones. So that'll be, I've got to get those all scheduled and up in the next few days. That's one of my next action steps. But Blab will be a pretty important platform for me to build this community. So if you're comfortable on Blab here, then it definitely invite you to come along for the journey.
That's a very
thank
cool
you very
concept.
much. Yeah, go ahead, Dagmar.
Oh, just that's a very cool concept too, that entrepreneurs have the opportunity to give back to the community, and the youngsters learn from the beginning. Do you mean, because like normally not everybody has a chance to be an entrepreneur with 16 or 18 or 19. And that's really a way how they can learn building business mindset and entrepreneurial spirit, because I don't think in school they teach you that.
No, not very often. And it's oftentimes it's only by hearing the stories of other people that are doing it that young people are going, oh, I didn't realize that was an option, and that's something now to pursue. So I think that's why it's so valuable to share stories and to share those connections, because it really opens the door for young people that maybe hadn't ever seen that door open before.
Yeah,
true.
Because then you don't have.
Jason. Sorry, go ahead.
Then you don't have to wait for somebody paying you or giving you a paycheck. You're not depending on anybody, but you can pay yourself. I think that's a very valuable lesson when you learn that when you're young.
That's great. So thank you, Jason, for your time. It's fine. I know we're having a lot of trouble with the sound today. So thank you for your time.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us. That's okay. No worries. For sharing, for all the, the tips and advice you gave us. It's really, it's going to help a lot of us here that we're here all the time listening to the expert we bring here. So thank you for your time. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Jason.
Thanks again, Jason.
Thank you, guys.
And, please feel free to follow Jason on Blab, on Twitter. Go to visit his website and check out his video on the speaker page. And you're going to be amazed with like his talk. It's a really incredible talk. So I really encourage you to listen to it. So thank you, everybody, for being with us every Friday, 7 p.m. Same time, same day. And we appreciate you. What we do, it's really trying to bring the best expert here to share their experience, to share personal or business. It doesn't matter, because all these experiences can help you, become a better person. And by becoming a better person, you'll be better at your business. You'll be doing more. You'll be having more fun. You can give back to the community and help others. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. So thanks, Jason. Thanks, Dagmar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And see you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you both. Bye-bye.